Mr. Edit Man presents. Officers and deputies. Ever put an unsuspecting arsehole in his place while off duty? I went on a field trip with my children to the pumpkin farm a few years back, which included my 2-year-old daughter. It was all mommies and one other guy beside me. I gravitated towards him and we started chatting. We all got on the local public bus to go to the pumpkin farm. The driver of the bus was insane. He drove about 20 miles per hour over the speed limit, ran 2 red lights, and ended up slamming on the brakes to avoid an accident on the second red light, launching my daughter into the back of the seat in front of her. She was alright, but cried hysterically. When we stopped, I had one of the mommies get off with my kids and went up to the driver and started ripping into him. I was ready to fight. I was so pissed. I suddenly hear a calm voice from behind me say, "I'll handle this," and turn around to the other dad holding a badge. He then asks the driver for his driver's license. Turns out that other dad was a highway patrolman. The driver was terminated. My dad was driving his undercover car one day, and this guy comes weaving down the lane doing about 30 over the speed limit. He finally gets right next to my dad, who gets right behind the car that was the next lane over, so that this guy cannot pass. The guy starts going apeshit, hair's flipping out, giving my dad the finger, yada yada, and finally swerves at him. My dad just laughs, flips on the lights and siren. He said as the guy pulled over he could literally see him banging his head into the steering wheel. How do people not see cop signs on undercover cars when that close? An extra antenna or two, bull bar, lights inside the vehicle, extra electronics, etc. This was in the newspaper in Windsor, Ontario recently. Off-duty cop saw a kid going car to car checking for unlocked cars. The cop reclined his chair so he was not visible. Kid opens undercover cop's car, promptly gets arrested. My dad's friend's sister used to be an FBI agent. She had this one story, although I think it's more a story of idiocity than putting somebody in their place. So there was a bank. One day some guy walked in with a note asking for money. Typical robbery. However, when the teller started reading it, she started laughing. This moron decided to rob a bank that was next to an FBI building. Of course, all the agents did their banking there, and there was always at least 5 or 6 agents in there at any one time. From the way she tells it, as one agent was arresting the guy, there was a train of 10 or so agents walking by showing their badges. That building next to the bank has a big ass sign saying Federal Bureau of Investigation. Haha. What a weird name. I'd abbreviate that. Oh. Well. Time to rob this ditch. So, I'm not a Leo, but I think I have got a good story for you. A few months back I was leaving drill, Army National Guard, and was still in uniform with one of my buddies, a fellow NCO whom we'll call Russ. Normally I do not make any stops on the way home because I do not like being out in public with my uniform on, but today was an exception. Going off of little sleep and in need of an energy drink or two and a pack of smokes to get where I needed to go, I stopped at a gas station. My buddy and I go in and commence browsing their fine selection of drinks and discussing the various merits of each option. A few minutes later this white trash one-ape gangster, we'll call him Mr. Ahole, enters the store and goes about doing what he apparently does best. He grabs a case of beer, a lighter, and some chips before blatantly trying to cut in front of 4 or 5 other people. No one protests for some reason, but the clerk does ask him to go the back of the line. He immediately becomes belligerent and starts yelling and threatening people. The clerk asks him to calm down and says she will call the police unless he leaves. He just gets angrier and says, "You ain't gonna call anyone, ditch." Has already drawn my friend and I attention, and without a word we set our stuff down and approach him. Being the bigger and stronger one, I approach him from behind while Russ goes around to flank him. This is how our interaction went down. Myself: "Hey buddy, why do not you calm down and do what the lady says? You're making this situation a little difficult." Ahole: "Why don't I mind your own ducking business there, soldier boy?" he says once he turns around. Myself: "I'd like to, sir, but you're threatening people here and I'm not going to stand for it." Ahole smirks, set his beer and stuff down, and tries to crack his knuckles. "Seriously, who does this? I'ma beat yo dumbass. No one tells me what to do." Russ: "I would not advise that, sir. Fox and I are more than capable of defending ourselves and detaining you until the police show up." At this point the clerk was calling the police and giving them our location. Ahole: "Duck UN **********. He yells and swings on Russ. Thankfully Russ is a quick guy and stepped back just in time to avoid the blow. Myself: "Ahole yells pussy as I grab his free arm and pin it to his back as I put him on the ground. Ahole starts screaming, making threats. and then starts crying about how he cannot go back to jail and that he has warrants. Myself and Russ begin laughing. I know, it's kind of a dick move, but the way he went from thuggin' to begging was too funny. Plus we're your typical disturbed combat veterans, so we'll laugh at most anything anyway. A few minutes later the police show up and start doing their thing. Mr. Rahul made some claims we attacked him for no reason, but the various witnesses and cameras pretty much proved him wrong. We hung around for a bit, made our statements, paid for our stuff, and then scooted on out of there. All in all it was a pretty good time for us. Oh, and on a side note, after talking to the arresting officer we found out he had warrants out for assault and domestic abuse, so that was cool. I do not get why people with warrants out typically seem to be the belligerent a-holes. If I had warrants out, I would be as low-key as possible. Then again, I guess most law-abiding citizens are pretty low-key and respectful. Good job. I have never understood this either. Half the time you see something like, he was speeding, and when he was pulled over the officer found he was wanted for X, Y, and Z. If him wanted for just X, y'all damn well better believe it'd be following the letter of the law to a T. If him wanted for Y, him not even driving, him just a passenger. And if him wanted for Z, duck it him taking the bus instead. Before college, I moved around a lot due to my dad being an FBI agent. At this particular time, my family and I lived in Las Vegas, and let's just say my dad was a very high level exec at the office there. This is a man in his 50s who is far beyond his field work days, but always insists on carrying his secondary. One day he's just getting some gas at a gas station when he sees a very excited woman come out of the convenience store. She had apparently just hit the jackpot at the gas station slots. Yes, they are everywhere in Las Vegas. The woman enters the bathroom around the side of the building, and after a little, while my dad hears screaming and struggling, he rushes around to see what's happening and catches a man running out of the women's bathroom. My dad immediately draws his weapon from his ankle holster, yells "Stop, FBI," gets the guy on the ground with his hands on his head, then cuffs and arrests him. The man was indeed robbing the woman of her winnings, and got hauled off by the police. After my dad waited out some very intimidating community confrontation without any backup. You cops definitely know how this is. For those of you who do not get the same weight of this that I do, this type of situation is incredibly uncommon for FBI agents, especially for senior execs. Anyway, what bad luck for the mugger to have an FBI agent arrest him immediately after committing the crime. If karma is real, it certainly was a ditch to this guy. Serves him right. Didn't happen to me, but some dumbass in my town got the brilliant idea to go around shooting people with an airsoft gun as they drove around. Turns out, one of the people they shot at was an off-duty cop. He drew his weapon and was a fraction of a second away from shooting one of them right in the face. They were lucky that the cop saw the orange tip. This happened to my sister when a teenager. She would hang out with these idiot boys who like to do that. He shot a jogger in the back of the head, but it was right before their destination. Jogger ran down their car and pulled a gun on them. Turns out he was a Secret Service agent. He went straight from small misdemeanors, minor smoking, stealing, to a federal offense for assaulting a federal officer. I'm a police firearms officer in the UK, bit like SWAT in America. Me and a colleague were driving through a reasonably large town that we work in around midday. We were in civvies and a unmarked car. There had been loads of jewelry shop robberies recently, so we were going along checking everyone was okay. We pulled up and entered one of them to chat to some of the people we know. My colleague went out the back to check some CCTV when a rather large gentleman enters the shop with a long coat on. He hands the assistant a note that read, "I have a gun. Do not piss me off. I will shoot you. Give me all your jewels." That is how he spelled it. The assistant shrieked, which put matey boy off. Next thing he knew, he was face down on the floor with a Glock muzzle in the back of his neck. Never before have I seen a grown man cry as much as he did. Just a stuck face. So I worked at a buffet in a bad neighborhood, and occasionally they would get people who were dine and dash. One particularly busy lunch hour, I was at the window section, and had just finished clearing up after a bus with my workmate. There are 3 sections in the buffet, which open/close every 3 to 4 hours to be able to rotate people on and off shifts, and 2 servers per section, so about 6 servers, 4 bus boys, hosts, bar staff, buffet staff running food and so on. There's a group of about 4 kids in the section farthest from the windows and front door where I am, near the bathrooms past the buffet. One of them hands the server in that section a debit card, and when she turns around to get the machine they try booking it for the door. Emphasis on try. Remember, it's a crowded restaurant, and they got to go past 2 sections, the buffet and the front cash. Only 2 got to the door. Now you may think, okay, 2 out of 4 ISN not bad. but there happened to be two cops with cars talking to a woman outside. I don't know what happened to her, but she had been talking to them upset for about an hour. We all chased the two thieves out the door, see the cops and shout that they did not pay. One cop took off on foot, the other hopped in the car and tore after them. As well, a large black gentleman built like a football player had just come out of the grocery store next door. He dropped his groceries and took off after the little thieves as well. They came dragging them back by the ear and had to call their parents to pay for their meal. The parents were apologetic to us and paid for the meal. A couple of the fathers looked ready to tear their kids a new one. I honestly felt bad for the parents, but the method of capture was epic. I'm a police officer in one of the smaller cities surrounding Jackson, Mississippi. While on my way home, I decided to hit the drive-thru at McDonald's. So me and another car enter the drive-thru using the proper route when dickhead here decides he's going to try to cut in on us. The car in front of me attempts to pull forward and not let this lazy asshole into the line. Asshole starts yelling out of the window, "Move that shite Methodica. It'll beat your ass etc etc." Now I'm watching this thinking this guy is an absolute lunatic. I could not believe it. The car pulls forwards and successfully blocks him out of the line. At that point, homeboy exits his truck and grabs his tire iron from the back and starts going to town on this guy's front end. There's plastic and shite flying everywhere. When I saw the tire iron, I hopped out of my car, but not in time to stop the damage. I'm in civis, but I have my badge on a chain and my leg holster on. Did not have my taser strapped on, so I draw my Glock on him and yell the standard orders at him. The look on this fella's face almost looked like he'd seen a ghost. He nearly froze mid-swing. He cannot believe he just did that shite in front of a cop. Yada yada, backup, report, arrest. I gave him assault creating fear, destruction of property, obstructing traffic and disorderly conduct. My town's pretty quiet, so it's not too often I make an arrest. But this one was the sweetest one I have had in a long time. Most of them are DUI or somebody being a prick at Waffle House. That kind of small town crap. If you are reading this, you made it until the end of the video. Smash that like button if you have enjoyed it. Bam. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this. So either go do something else or watch more videos. That's about it. There is no more here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? This is not a secret, but subscribe for more videos like this.